Let me tell you something nobody puts in a dating profile. Nobody writes, "I'm most attractive when I'm standing up for something I actually believe in." But here's what science, and honestly just life, keeps proving over and over again. The most magnetic version of you isn't the version sitting on a couch swiping right. It's the version that shows up. That takes a stand. That walks into a room full of strangers because something mattered enough to drag you off your couch. Today I'm going to tell you exactly why that is, and what it means for every relationship you'll ever have. A guy named Marcus, normal dude, worked in IT, hadn't been on a date in 2 years. Tagged along to a protest with his coworker on a random Saturday. He wasn't even that passionate about the cause. She just asked and he said sure. 2 hours in, he ended up holding one end of a banner next to a woman named Priya. They were standing in the rain. His sneakers were soaked. And somehow that led to coffee. Then dinner. Then 3 years later, a wedding. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's cute, but that's just luck. No, it's not. There is a very specific psychological and emotional reason why people fall in love, or at least fall into deep connection, in moments exactly like that one. And once you understand it, you'll never look at ordinary moments the same way again. Let's break this down. 5 things happening in that story that most people completely miss. Here's something that happens on almost every first date in America right now. 2 people sit across from each other at some mid-range restaurant and spend the first 45 minutes answering the same 5 questions. What do you do? Where are you from? Do you have siblings? What do you do for fun? It's exhausting. And it almost never leads to anything real. You know why? Because there are no stakes. Nobody is vulnerable. Nobody has shown you anything real about who they are. You're just exchanging information like 2 computers loading data. Now flip that. Imagine you're standing next to a stranger at a rally for something you care about. Maybe it's a veterans' rights march. Maybe it's a local school board meeting that got out of hand. Maybe it's a neighborhood cleanup that turned into a full-on community protest about a factory polluting the river. Whatever it is, you're both there. In public. For a reason. And that reason tells the other person something real about you before you've said a single word. Researchers at the University of Virginia did a study years ago where they put strangers in mildly stressful situations together. Things like climbing a hill while carrying something heavy, or navigating a task under time pressure. What they found was that shared difficulty, even tiny difficulty, made people trust each other faster and like each other more. Psychologists call this shared adversity bonding. The military has known this for centuries. Sports teams know it. And it turns out, standing in the rain holding a protest sign works exactly the same way. When Marcus and Priya were holding that banner together, they weren't just standing next to each other. They were enduring something together. That matters more than 3 months of swiping ever could. Stop waiting for the perfect low-pressure date. Sometimes the fastest path to real connection is showing up somewhere that actually requires something from you, and letting people see you do it. I need you to sit with this one. Every dating coach in America will tell you to list your values in your bio. I value honesty. Family is important to me. I care about the environment. And then people scroll right past it without a second thought because anyone can type words. But when someone sees you living your values out loud, that's a completely different experience. Think about it from the outside. You're at a community event. Maybe it's a march for better public transit. Maybe it's a protest against a development tearing down affordable housing in your town. And you see someone across the crowd who is fully in it. They're not on their phone. They're not looking around to see who's watching. They're just there, present, committed. That is attractive. Not in a surface-level way. In a deep, I want to know this person way. There's actually a term for this in psychology. It's called value signaling through behavior. And it's one of the most powerful things a person can do in any social situation. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because authenticity, real, unperformed authenticity, is genuinely rare. And people feel it instantly. Now here's the flip side of this that nobody talks about. When you meet someone at a protest, at a community event, at a volunteer shift, you also immediately know something crucial about them. You know they show up. You know they care about something beyond their Netflix queue. You've already passed the first filter that most relationships never even apply. Real talk. How many people do you know who stayed in a relationship for years, maybe even got married and then eventually realized, I don't think we actually want the same things. That happens because people don't vet for values early. They vet for vibes. And vibes fade. Showing up somewhere that reflects your values is the fastest form of pre-screening that exists. Your next date idea should be somewhere both of you would go alone if the other person didn't exist. If you both show up anyway, you already have the most important thing in common. Okay, this one is wild and it's backed by real science. You need to hear this. In 1974, two psychologists named Dutton and Aaron ran one of the most famous experiments in the history of relationship psychology. They had an attractive female researcher approach men on two different bridges in Vancouver. One bridge was a solid, low, stable wooden bridge. The other was a rickety, high-suspension bridge that swayed over a 230-foot drop. After crossing each bridge, the men were approached and asked to tell a story. Then they were given the researcher's phone number, in case they wanted more information. The men on the scary bridge. They called back significantly more often. Their stories had more romantic and sexual themes. They were more attracted to her, even though she was the exact same person saying the exact same thing. The reason? Their brains misread the adrenaline from the scary bridge as excitement about the person they'd just met. Now, I'm not telling you to take dates on dangerous bridges. What I'm telling you is this: environments that create mild excitement, a protest with energy in the air, a march where something is actually at stake, a crowd of people unified around a cause. That environment is doing emotional work that a boring dinner table simply cannot do. The excitement you feel standing in a charged crowd gets attached to the people you're standing with. That's just how the brain works. It's not manipulation. It's biology. This is why people who go through intense experiences together, first responders, people who survive natural disasters, soldiers, activists, often form bonds that last decades. The intensity of the moment becomes the foundation of the relationship. A quiet, perfectly curated dinner date with zero stakes. It just doesn't build that same neurological bridge. No pun intended. If your dating life feels flat and every first date feels like a job interview, it's not you. It's the environment. Change the environment and you will change the connection. Here's a question I want you to think about honestly. When was the last time someone you barely knew watched you do something genuinely selfless? Not something you told them about. Something they actually watched happen in real time. For most of us, the answer is rarely. Maybe never. Because our lives are largely private. People see our highlight reel on Instagram. They hear the stories we choose to tell. But they almost never get to just observe us being who we are when nobody's watching, or when we think nobody's watching. A protest, a community event, a volunteer shift, those are rare windows where people can actually see you in action. And here's what happens neurologically when you watch someone do something kind, brave, or selfless. Your brain releases the same chemicals it would if you had done that good thing yourself. It's called moral elevation. Jonathan Haidt at NYU has studied this for years. Watching someone act with integrity literally makes you feel warmth toward them. It's involuntary. So when Marcus showed up to that protest, even if he wasn't the loudest person there, even if he wasn't leading the chants, the fact that he was there, being consistent, being present, being willing to stand in the rain for something. Priya's brain was logging all of that. Quietly. Without her even realizing it. That's why relationships built on shared service, shared activism, shared volunteerism tend to be so durable. You've seen each other at your most earnest. You know each other in a way that months of dating apps never reveal. My grandmother used to say, "Don't tell me who you are. Let me watch you for a day and I'll know." She was right. She just didn't know the neuroscience. Find one thing you'd show up for even if it was inconvenient. Not for clout. Not to post about it. But because it matters to you. Then actually show up. The right people will notice and they'll remember. Here's the thing nobody in the relationship advice space wants to say, because it doesn't sell courses or apps. The reason so many people feel lonely right now, even surrounded by people, even with full social media followings, even with plenty of matches on dating apps, is not because they're not attractive enough or interesting enough or tall enough or rich enough. It's because they've stopped being discoverable. You cannot meet the right person if you're only ever in the same three places: your apartment, your job, and whatever bar or restaurant you scroll to on Yelp. You become invisible to the exact people who would be most drawn to you because those people are out somewhere doing something and you're not there. Every protest, every community meeting, every cause-driven gathering is a self-sorting mechanism. The people who show up share something important before they've even introduced themselves. That is a filter that no algorithm has ever successfully replicated. Now, and I want to be very clear here, I'm not telling you to fake passion for causes you don't believe in just to meet people. That's gross and it doesn't work. People can feel inauthenticity from across a room. What I am saying is, you probably already care about something. Your neighborhood, your school system, veterans, animals, the environment, local businesses, voting rights, any of it, all of it. The question is, are you showing up for it? Or are you just posting about it? There is a version of you that is fully alive, walking around in the world, being seen, creating the kind of moments that stories get built around. And there's a version of you that's scrolling through other people's stories at 11 p.m. wondering why nothing exciting ever happens to you. Marcus joined that protest on a whim. But Priya noticed him. She noticed because he was actually there. The most important relationship decision you'll ever make might not be who you swipe on. It might be which door you decide to walk through this weekend. So here's what I want you to do. Right now. Not someday. Find one event, one rally, one community meeting, one volunteer shift, one local cause gathering, happening in your city in the next 30 days. Put it in your calendar. Go alone if you have to. You don't need a reason or a plan or the perfect outfit. Just show up. And if you found this useful, share it with someone who's been stuck in the same routine and wondering why their love life feels like a rerun. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a friend is remind them. The life they want is out there. They just have to walk out the door. I'll see you in the next one.